So good evening and welcome to the council meeting of the 14th of September 2020. This meeting is being conducted under COVID-19 protocols in place for social distancing and isolation. The meeting is being conducted electronically using Zoom, and at some point will be live streamed on Facebook Live. Town Hall is closed to the public, and the most up-to-date meeting package is on our Town of Kentville website. The public may send questions, and I'll have to repeat this once we are on Facebook, directly to the recording secretary's email at jwest@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. We will be voting by poll. The chair will call your name and ask, "How say you?" This method permits us to verbally record your vote. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences? CAO Smith, could you please take the roll call?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to say that all members of council are present for the meeting. We are assisted as well by members of our staff, so the directors are here. Jennifer, Jason is here, and of course our solicitor is here, Jeff Matart. And we will have guests coming on to make presentations, and we'll introduce those folks more fully when we get to that section.
Thank you, CAO. The next step is approval of our agenda, and CAO, we have been provided with a proposed agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to that agenda?
Yes, Mayor Snow, we have added 3 items to the agenda. We've done our best to circulate these, but they may not all be available. We can cover them quite easily. Under item 5, Engineering and Public Works, we have a report called Asset Management, FCM Funding, which we would like to bring to your attention. We have an opportunity there for funding that we would like to take advantage of. On the page 2, under administration, under my reports, we've added a returning officer's report. It's a 1-pager. It basically brings you up to speed on information about the returning office and preparations for the election. And then under 7, we've added F, a letter that came in on the weekend from the Thomas family with respect to Harrington Road, which is an area that we're aware of that is across the 101, and we'll speak to it briefly when we come to correspondence. So those are the 3 items we would like to officially add to your agenda.
Thank you, CAO. If we could have a motion to accept those additions, please.
Moved.
Thank you. And the seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. So we have several sets of minutes tonight. And I would like to call, are there any revisions to the minutes as distributed? If not, we may approve them under one motion. So are there any? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. The March the 9th minutes, I objected to those or said I wasn't satisfied with those, and that's why they were delayed. In comparing them, nothing has changed and nothing has been approved. So I would again still have difficulty with those minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. The intent is to put a note there to say that you were not present at the meeting. Mm-hmm. And you were, or there was direction provided at the meeting to you, which was never passed on to you. Mm-hmm. And this all occurred because of the COVID. And if we refer to the CAC meeting or the first meeting that we had in April. This is all documented that you were not provided with the direction. So therefore, we're going to say, as we said then, that it's water under the bridge, but we still require a motion to approve these minutes. And we realized that you were not at the meeting, but what occurred is what is recorded in those minutes. And in subsequent minutes, we have registered what you've said.
Okay, I'm good with that, except in these minutes, I'm asked to make an apology.
That's correct. That's the direction that you were not given.
That's the direction I was not given, and about negative comments that I don't know what they're about. So, you know, I would like that piece taken out of there.
Okay.
Move that, please, and I'll be good.
That cannot occur because you put in a code of conduct report.
Yes.
And that is where the negative comments are registered from, is from your code of conduct report against one of the members of this council.
That code of conduct report, there was nothing demeaning or derogatory or mean in that report. And
no one said there was.
no, and we're none of us immune to the code of conduct, including your worship. And so I feel that this is a matter that has not been adequately resolved. And maybe a meeting with the new CAO might bring some resolution to that. But that's what I mostly object to. And I, you know, without getting into details, because I did that in April on the 27th, we've had until now 6 months to get a meeting and get that resolved, and still nothing has happened. So, you know, I can't in good conscience approve a set of minutes where I'm being asked to do something that I feel is up in the air, and you know, I can't do it right now. So
thank you for your comments, and your vote against these minutes will be registered as not accepting the minutes. I will reiterate that what is in the minutes is what was discussed at the meeting, and it was the recommendation coming out of the report that you made. And they were negative comments. There is no statement in there about derogatory or mean, just negative comments. And as such, certainly, Solicitor, I see your hand.
I was just going to suggest, Your Worship, that as a result of Councillor Maxwell's comments, that you probably should deal with that set of minutes separately from the others, and at least have two motions here.
Okay, certainly, we can do that.
I'll move the adoption of the special council meeting March the 9th.
Thank you. And if I could have a seconder of that, please.
Second.
Councillor Pulsifer, thank you. Is there any further discussion on that?
yes, I have one more thing to say. As a teacher, I'm going to liken this to something in the school system, which would be something like a bully and the gang or supporters asking a victim for an apology. And I really, really strenuously object to that type of thing going on. And as a retired teacher, I just absolutely could not approve that.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell, for your comments. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
Question?
We have a set of minutes from the special council meeting on March the 9th, 2020. All those in favor of adopting those minutes? Those opposed? Councillor Maxwell, thank you. The motion is carried. Further to this, we have the other minutes. If I could have someone move the adoption of those minutes, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Yeah, it was Councilor.
Thank you. Is there any comment on those other minutes? There being no comment, if
I have a comment.
certainly go ahead.
At the end of the first page there, or well, actually, no, the 27th meeting. Yes, here we go. Under approval of the agenda, the deletion 7B, departmental COVID-19 reports. If somebody's looking at these minutes, they're going to say that was done in the meeting. I think we should add that those were removed the day of the meeting by the mayor through email.
And then it was repeated at the meeting.
Right, but they were removed prior to.
No, they were not there.
We didn't vote on those. We didn't vote on that.
Yes, we did. That agenda was approved by motion of council and voted on.
Right, but the deletion was already in.
No, it was not. It was reiterated at the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes as distributed? Those opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried. All right, we're moving on to our presentations. CAO, we have 2 presentations this evening. If you could please introduce our guests and their presentations. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I was coughing a few minutes ago and didn't think you'd want to hear that. I did want to introduce the gentlemen that are making a presentation. I don't see them on the screen, but I assume they will be coming along shortly. Just want to make sure they can hear me, that's all, when I speak. There's Andrew is probably with us, and Ian Boyd. So my understanding, I'll let both of them introduce themselves more fully in just a minute, but welcome Andrew and Ian. They're here to make a presentation about Stonemount properties, and Stonemount have been in conversation with us, or the representatives have been, about a potential senior citizens facility in the town. And they have selected a location, and we have spoke to them about the concerns that are in the municipal planning strategy about that location and where it is. But they need to make decisions quickly, and they asked if they might be able to present it to council. So we have put it on with council. We don't have an application yet, and we have told them that our advice to council will be to the negative because of your plan that we try our best to represent. But we did want to give them an open opportunity to speak to you and ask questions about the report. The intention is that you wouldn't be making a motion because, again, there isn't an application. It's just good information for you and a chance to ask questions about a project that certainly has value. We are, as staff, just questioning location. And Andrew, I'm going to turn that over to you. Can you hear us now? And okay.
Hi there. There.
There we are.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you very well. Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, folks. Can you see me on the screen as well, or do you just see the graphic?
Right now, we're just seeing the graphic, and you are unmuted. Ian is still muted. So
Good,
your
that's
video
fine.
may not be on or whatever, but we can see your slides at this point, but certainly we'd like to be able to see you and engage with you when it's convenient.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm joined today by Jason White, Chief Financial Officer with Stonemount, and also Ian Boyd, who is our constructor. We're just going to adjust our sound here. Great. There we go. I was just getting some feedback. Thank you very much for agreeing to have the presentation or let us speak to you today. Stonemount Retirement Living, it's an entity out of Ontario. We're looking at moving into this market. The business plan was based on 2 concurrent builds. We currently have one that's just getting underway starting in Bridgewater. Kentville was the other preferred market. So for the last number of months over the last year, Jason and I have been looking at a variety of properties in the area, trying to locate one that matched Stonemont's requirement relative to size, servicing, visibility. So they had a demonstrated set of criteria that they were looking for. Again, the 2 top-ranked municipalities in the province that we wanted to focus on concurrently was Kentville and Bridgewater. And I'll just bring up a few background slides just to show you how we got to that point. If you look at Canada's retirement residence picture, everything really comes down to capture rate, what percentage of the estimated population in the age bracket of 75 plus has the ability, are there a number of rooms or spaces available for them? And if you look at this graphic, you'll see that Nova Scotia is one of the most underserved areas of the country relative to enough retirement residents. So these are independent living facilities. Folks come in newly retired or have been retired for a period of time. They're looking to unload their home. They want a space where their meals are provided, their laundry is done, yet they're independent. They don't require a high level of care. These aren't nursing homes. These aren't provincially funded facilities. These are privately funded. They're similar to what Shanex has done in a number of locations and other providers around the province and around the country. So right now, in looking at the requirement, obviously, I think everyone would agree that there's a significant demand coming forward. As time goes on, the percentage of our population looking for these types of spaces is only going to increase. And the current supply that's out there is undersized by, 250,000 over the years to come. New beds or new spaces, new suites will be required. So with that, we've been focusing on which markets in particular. So again, the Nova Scotia market is severely underserved. So that's why we've been focusing heavily on these 2 markets. We've done detailed analysis of all of the markets in Nova Scotia to see which were the top 2 that we wanted to start with. We'll be rolling out facilities across the province. Again, the top 2, and I've blocked out the information because it's proprietary, but we go down and study each of these markets in great detail. So we've looked at Kentville, we've looked at HRM, we've looked at Sydney and Yarmouth and Bridgewater and Truro and all of the markets. And the 2 that we felt had the best parameters and demographics were Kentville and Bridgewater. We went to Bridgewater. We had relatively easy time locating a site. We secured the site through the municipality. It's a municipality-owned site. We did have to go in and get some rezoning done, get some bylaw amendments done, but it was really very, very easy. When they saw what the project was, what the final product was, it's a $20 million development that brings with it 50 long-term positions, jobs to a market. It was an easy sell for MODL, Municipality of the District of Lunenburg, to approve the project. Kentville was much more challenging. We had a hard time finding a site. We finally found a site recently that, after much searching, that met our requirements for sizing, servicing, visibility, and that's the site you see before you now on the corner of Park and Shiloh there in that business area. And it's a perfect site for us. We're really excited by it. We can put up a facility there, 160 unit. It has a number of amenity spaces associated with it. And I apologize, my screen is jumping a little bit, but this is typically what we're proposing for this site. Early concept. It has a number of residences in the first floor, but then you see the amenity spaces. There's a full dining room, bar, theater, chapel, spa, gym, health facilities, salons, different activity rooms, lounges. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of amenities for the residents. And then the upper floors are mostly residential. And to kind of give you an idea of, it's not just a plain box. It has some really nice architecture to it. The one we're doing in Bridgewater now is a sister project to this, very similar, wood frame construction, 4 stories, the same number of units, the same distribution of amenity space to common space. limited parking in the front, more parking in the back. That highway visibility is extremely important to the client. That's something they want to see. They want to have a presence off the main road. But right now, the challenge we have is the site that we're in love with and that we want is currently zoned C2, highway commercial, whereas we would require an R4, high density residential. And we know that you can't make a decision tonight. There's not a motion in front of you. And we know that municipal elections are coming up. We're also being crunched on our side that we need these two developments to go concurrently. So either we're going to do Bridgewater and Kentville, or we're going to do Bridgewater and Municipality of Kings, or Bridgewater and Truro, or Bridgewater and another municipality. We have an agreement and a contract with our contractor and our designers that we're going forward with two concurrent builds, and it builds into our business model. What we're kind of looking for today is just we have to risk manage what we're going to do in terms of going forward and, either proceeding with this property and hope and go through the process and hope that we get the rezoning, or if we feel that no, that current council and maybe the council going forward would be very committed to their current zoning and not willing to change that, then that's fine. It's totally in your prerogative. We would look to another market, another zone. We just wanted to get a flavor of what you were thinking when you see a project like this. We're not bringing in a hog rendering facility or something that you won't like. It's something your residents will appreciate and are valued. The question is, do you see that as council, as an elected body? Where do you feel as individuals? And we have to kind of risk manage, again, what we see that reaction to be. So with that, we kind of want to hear any questions, comments, concerns you have.
All right, can we get back to standard Zoom screen so that we can get everybody back on?
Turn my volume off.
So I think, Andrew, you have to stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Here we go. Are you on with us?
Yeah, I'm there. Ian, can you turn your camera on?
We have all kinds of questions, so as soon as
No problem.
Okay, as soon as you're ready.
Yeah. If you can start asking questions, we'll answer them here.
All right, very good. Councillor Andrew, your hand is up first.
I don't have questions so much as just more or less. I mean, there's a process obviously for rezoning application that we can't circumvent. But actually, it sounds kind of exciting. We have, we're growing, and this is a growing area, and it should be pretty exciting and affirming for us. We know we're a growth center. We say we're a growth center, and here we've been identified yet again as a growth center. And so on the surface, barring the processes we need to go through, it sounds very, very promising and exciting. That's it for me.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Hi, Andrew. Just a couple of questions. In terms of the Bridgewater location that you said that you found, you said it was fairly easy to locate, but that some rezoning had to be done. I'm just wondering, was it also zoned R2 or, was it zoned C2 or was it zoned residential?
It was zoned outside of what it needed to be for us. I don't recall what the exact zoning had to do, but I know we had to go in and rezone it, and we also needed to adjust some bylaws relative to number of parking stalls, maximum height, lighting, signage. So we worked with the municipal officials and said, okay, for example, a number of parking stalls. For a retirement facility or for a nursing home, they had a ratio of 3 to 1. For every 3 units, we required 1 space. Well, we knew that typically in these facilities, when we're building in Ontario and other locations, we can easily do 2 to 1. So we demonstrated that, and we said, look, if we ever get to the point, we bought a 5.5 acre parcel. If we need more parking, we'll build it. We just know that we only need that. So they were very accommodating on that. So we went through all in one fell swoop with the Planning Advisory Committee. We rezoned it, and we got all the changes made. There was a restriction on the height. We needed to be another 6 or 8 feet. So I think I added 12 feet to it, and that got us in for there. There was nothing significant in terms of rezoning or the bylaws, just little tweaks that we needed to make.
Okay, that's great. In terms of, you just alluded to 5.5 acre parcel that you required. So I guess my question is more around the parcel that you've located that, you know, is in the C2 zone. I'm assuming it's because you need that amount of land that you.
Yes. So if we went back to the slide, I've laid out the parking that we require and cited the building. So we worked with our design team to say, what's the minimum, because the property just between us that we're looking at buying there from Parsons is much more expensive than the property that we purchased in Bridgewater. So we really had to economize to what was the minimum size lot we could get. And we're around 4 acres, I believe, on this one, Jason, if that's correct. Yeah, 3 and a bit. So yeah, we can fit it and we meet all the setback, offset requirements, all that good stuff.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you, Your Worship. And thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Just a question. You had mentioned a bunch of amenities that were going to be in the complex. Will they be accessible to the general public as well, or are they strictly for your own residents?
It's a great question. So typically the beauty salon and sometimes the health facility are available to third parties to come in, but the other ones are strictly limited to the residents of the facility. So the gym, well, I say that the bar could be potentially open to others. Typically it's not. Most of the amenity space is for the residents, but there are some spaces, the bar or the beauty salon and the health facility could be open and normally are open to the public.
Okay, thank you. And Your Worship, I also have a question, but it's for Bev. Should I wait until after this, or can I ask it now?
Go right ahead. She's there.
Okay, perfect. I'm just wondering, and Brian alluded to this, is the only reason that staff isn't recommending this site, which I guess I already knew through the information that we got, the fact that it doesn't conform to our MPS, or do they have other concerns that would be on top of that?
Yes, yeah, it doesn't really conform with our MPS. It's clear in the planning strategy that the highway commercial is specifically designated for bigger commercial uses such as car dealerships and things like that. And I'll just read just one portion, if you don't mind, from the MPS, which states that due to the high traffic commercial character of the area, the quality of the environment is not conducive to residential living. So if we go forward with this would certainly be more than a rezoning application. It's a plan amendment as well. And I think one of the other concerns that staff has as well is that we have such limited commercial property in place or left within the town of Kentville. We thought that there might be other areas more be better suited for a residential component rather than on the highway commercial.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I don't see any downside to this other than looking at the zoning issue. You know, these residents would feed our downtown core as far as spending their money downtown is concerned. It doesn't hurt our tax rate. You know, it creates work in the area as well for the individuals building it. That land has been vacant for many, many years. I can see Director Gentleman's point. However, you know, I think it's worthy of further investigation. And certainly, I don't personally think we should walk away from this. We should investigate a bit further, especially as you have timelines in mind, etc. So one question is, what is the demographic, I guess the easier question is, what's the rent going to be compared to other units? I mean, this is a fully self-contained facility. Do you feel comfortable that you've got the future tenants in the area that will support this? I mean, I'm looking at other properties we have in the Kentville area that have, you know, super apartments, nice facilities, but not the hair salons and the bar, etc. So you've done
It's a great question. So
yeah,
without boxing Jason, who's the CFO, too far, the typical pricing regime, there's a variety of suite sizes. But for your most modest suite size, including meals, laundry, and access to all amenities, you're around $2,000 a month. If you get to the bigger one-bedroom units, which are about twice the size, you're roughly twice the cost, $4,000 a month. But that $2,000 a month, if you compare that to what you would pay at a Shanx or other facilities, is far, far lower. So that's the real value proposition. That's why this market is, we feel, so underserved. We can provide that product at that price point, and that's very attractive for people. My own father was in a Shanx facility for memory care, and we were paying $5,500 a month. And it was full laundry, full meals, obviously, and a very limited amount of care. And that was $5,500 a month. He would have been well suited in the early days of his dementia to be in a facility like this, where we would have been at $2,000 or $2,500 a month. So yeah, that's the price point. Very affordable, very reasonable. And the markets that we've selected, yourselves in Bridgewater, have the demographic to support that.
Okay.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, gentlemen. I like the presentation here, and I like the idea. My question is, you said the highway visibility is very important. Why is that with a senior's residence? Why are you looking for a highway very close there?
Great question. We find that the residents there, it's their first step out of their home, and they don't like to be in an area where they don't see what's going on, the comings and goings. They like to be connected. They like to be in walking distance. They want to be still connected to the community. Some of them still have their own vehicles. That's why we have the parking there, and some of them utilize that. We have shuttle services that take them to the malls, what have you. But we have found that both the residents like to be connected and closer to, and have that visibility closer to the downtown, and also the children and the grandchildren like to be able to see them. We don't want to tuck it back in a field. We don't want it in the back of a subdivision. It takes away from the aesthetic, and the residents prefer to be centrally located and have that visibility.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Pulsfer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for the presentation. I think this is an exciting project. It certainly opens the door here in this area for what you called perhaps limited services for this. I do have one question. Is there an age restriction to become a resident of this project? Do you have to be a certain age?
No, we have residents that are recently retired, in their late 50s, early 60s. The median age is mid 70s to mid 80s. When people require a higher level of care, we offer a certain amount in-house, but then when it becomes more care than we can offer, then they go to another facility. But for that first step, there's no minimum age, there's no maximum age. Really what drives it is their ability to get the services they need. When they need more services, we come to a mutual agreement that they're at that point, and then they move on in their life journey to another facility, but no age restrictions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I definitely, it's an exciting project, and thank you for presenting to us today.
We're really excited. We love the Kentville market. We really like this property. In full disclosure, we looked at one, and we tried really hard with owners adjacent to the existing Shanx facility there, where the old juice bottling plant was. Tried everything we could to buy that property. It fell through. It would have been a great property. And we've looked at dozens of others. I personally don't want to go to one of the other markets. I like this site as a builder, as an engineer. It's a nice, flat, beautiful, level site. I'm currently planning the design and construction of the new King's Honda just up the road. A couple years ago, I did the Toyota Honda for a different set of owners, or Toyota, Kentville Toyota rather. We would really like to build there. It's an exciting property, exciting project. Jason and I have worked on a few of these in the past. So we'd really like to say that, yeah, it looks positive, and we're going to move forward with the site.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Savage, your hand's up again.
Thank you, Worship. I think you just answered the question, Andrew. Was more, had you looked at any other pieces of property in the town of Kentville that would have been suitable for the project?
We've looked in the town of Kentville. We've looked in municipality of Kings. We've been all around. We had a number of them that got shortlisted that fell off for a variety of reasons. The main investment group behind Stonmont is based out of Ontario. They've flown down and looked at some of our preferred sites that didn't follow through. And I'll be really, really honest. This is our final site. We don't have anything else on as a plan B. And that's why we're pushing. Normally, if we reach a municipality and they say, look, we're not rezoning and we're not in favor and we're not going to recommend to council to rezone, we would normally just walk away and go to another site. If we had another one, we would, but we don't. So this is our Hail Mary toss to say, okay, let's hope that the councilors that do seem in favor are reoffering and that they win and we can risk manage. So all of you go out there and lobby really hard and get back in, those of you who are coming in.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, just after listening to the director gentleman, and on top of it not being in our books, but the concerns that that they have, that staff have, do you guys have any of those concerns? Traffic concerns, location concerns? That you're dealing with a much more sensitive demographic and clientele than a more of a retail or car, and I would think that would be your biggest concern, is we don't want to put these people in a spot where it's going to be an issue of some other type.
If Jason could throw me back control of the screen just for a moment, if that's possible. So to accommodate that concern, and that is a concern, we are only putting our temporary parking, our visitor parking, off the main highway. Everything else comes in through the side street. So all our service, all our staff parking, all our resident parking is off the low volume side street. And we limit to only a handful of vehicles that come in off the main highway. We want the highway visibility and presence, but we don't want our residents or visitors or staff clogging up that roadway. And it's exactly the same thing that we had in Bridgewater. We're fronting on a main highway there, but our parking in the front is not interconnected to the back, and it's limited to visitor parking. And the 80% or 90% of our parking is off a low density, low volume side street. So that's how we came to the site. If it didn't have the side street, it wouldn't have been on our list. We couldn't have made it work. But this particular site, because of that side street, works perfectly, and it gives us everything we want.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, if we could go back to the other screen so I can see my list of panelists. Thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Yeah, thank you again, Your Worship. Gentlemen, so you're saying that you would be using Shyla Drive as an entry point?
Yes. Yes.
I have some concerns about that. My office is in that area, in the Access Nova Scotia building. That's a high speed, should say high speed, but it's a 60-kilometer stretch. But it'd be pity if you couldn't look at another entry point. The visibility pulling out of that street is quite difficult. I can just see some issues at some point happening. I'm not sure if you recognize that or not, but
it's something, if we see that that's where we're going with this site, we'll definitely investigate it fully. But at first glance, there's a lot less traffic on that one than the main highway. So, and we're close to the intersection. So by then vehicles are either just starting to gain speed or slowing down for the intersection. So we think we're okay, but we'll look at it further for sure.
You're saying the main highway. The main highway is 2 kilometers
well,
away.
The Park Street.
Highway 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my concern is, people that are 60, 70, 80 years old going onto that road from Shyla Drive, but it's just something to look at. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything further for our guests? Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation. I don't know if you got a sense of how the folks around this table feel, but I think that there's some very positive statements. You do realize that a land use bylaw change is not a simple procedure, and does require time. And with an election, there's definitely not enough time for this council to start looking at it, or to I shouldn't say to start looking at it, but to progress this through to a solution that would be amiable to you. But as you said, if the members of this council that have heard what you have to say are reoffering, then maybe they do their best to become reelected and provide you with more. And again, without a request for rezoning on the table, there isn't actually much we can do. So again, I thank you for your time, and I hope that the comments that you've received here provide you with some food for thought, and perhaps something to bank on for the continued progress here and growth in the town of Kentville.
Thank you very much for your time. It was very useful for us. We really appreciate it. Just with a show of hands, just for our benefit, who is reoffering on your side?
Sorry, please don't ask for show of hands of any kind at this point in this meeting, please. You can read about who's running for re-election. Let's not go there today, please.
Okay. All right. With that, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
See you. CEO, are you prepared to introduce our next guest?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. I would like to introduce Dan Stovall, who should be around. There he is. And while he's getting warmed up and getting his gear ready to share his screen, I want to say that I took part in a REMO sort of a training exercise just last week, as did a number of the people on the call with us. And it was very well done, very thorough. So coincidentally, with the wildfire season that we're experiencing on the media every night, Dan is here to speak to us about a piece of the plan for REMO that we can respond to. Dan.
Thank you very much, CAO, and I think everybody can hear me. Turned off mute. Your Worship, Council, thank you very much for this opportunity to move forward with emergency preparedness. I would be remiss as your regional emergency coordinator if I did not take 1 second to highlight the 2020 extremely active hurricane season. We've just had our 20th named storm. We currently have 2 active hurricanes and 2 active tropical storms and a tropical depression. 1 hurricane and 1 of the tropical storms will actually forecast to reach major hurricane status, which is category 3 and above, winds of 178 kilometers an hour. Right now we're watching some systems. I will say that Hurricane Sally in the Gulf, by the time it breaks up over land, will impact us with some rainfall over Friday early through Saturday, but no significant winds. The other one, more of a concern, is Tropical Storm Teddy that in latest models indicate a beeline coming for us. But with that happy note, I will now share my screen. And getting right into this, we've done a lot towards preparedness in Kings County. Our latest endeavor is moving forward with a wildfire preparedness and response plan. I'll show a timeline that shows it's a bit adrift because of the little pandemic that's been taking place, but I'll provide this presentation for consideration now. The plan, as with our other plans, will provide both information and guidelines that may be required in the event of a wildfire that impacts Kings County. For awareness for council, wildfire season is March 15th to October 15th every year, sometimes more active than others. Fire locations are actually closely tied to where people live. That said, the number of wildfires, people are always, when I do community outreach, are amazed at the number of wildfires in Kings County because they don't necessarily interface on close urban areas. But we still have lost this year 333 hectares of wildland forest that brings in lands and forestry people. Our plan recognizes and identifies when health of residents may be impacted. Really significant, as I found with emergency management, is communicating with the public. And everything with community outreach, websites, and everything else we have is making sure the information is available to the public. And also communicating, coordinating, not with our internal agencies, but also other local agencies of the Kings County and at a higher level when resources are required at the provincial level as well. Mobilizing resources and initiating actions, and employing the incident command system that we widely teach and use throughout Canada and throughout Nova Scotia. Under the most severe conditions, we can actually look at residents looking to abandon homes and seeking shelter. Knocking on wood, and fortunate that is not yet taking place here in Kings County. We do have a regional evacuation plan to support that, and MOUs with Kings Transit and other resources to be able to evacuate. They have had a number of issues in HRM and others that they've looked at immediate evacuation requirements and other things because of wildfires that have taken place. And an annual concern always, if you consider outside of Nova Scotia, to Alberta and BC, and now throughout California and Oregon and other parts out west, is all aflame. Just for your background, historic side of things, Kings County actually, in a 14-year period average, and these records are from Lands and Forestry, we're looking at about 22 wildfires per year. Right now, we've had 18 fires in Kings County. And although not all in Kings County, just that one significant, if you remember the number of heat warnings we had and the very warm weather and dry conditions, for just a 3-day period, there were actually 11 fires across Nova Scotia. Amazing, none here in Kings County of significance, but down in the South Shore, down around Clare, and of course HRM and up in Cape Breton, there were other fires as well. Our emergency management priorities with all emergencies actually, but life safety is priority number one. And that's life safety of all, but responders, residents, and visitors. We are a tourist area for the most times, although right now it's slowed up with pandemic, but we do have visitors in our area. And understanding about support for stranded or evacuated persons in setting up in emergency shelters. Protection of critical infrastructure, identifying those critical infrastructure nodes and transportation modes, communication, other ones that have to stay up. And a big part of everything we do, and I'm a firefighter as well, is understanding protection of the environment. As much as possible, reduction of economic impact, returning communities to normal, and reducing the impact of private property where possible and appropriate. Everything we do with respect to having been in a number of house fires is life safety number one, but property preservation and trying to restore and maintain their property as much as possible. This slide is a repetitive slide, but it's very key that all of the actual printed out copies we have in our emergency center for all our EM support plans, it doesn't matter if you're reaching for the wildfire plan, the hurricane plan, the heat advisory response system, people get repetitive in nature and understanding. Section 3 is responsibility. Section 4, key one, is public education and awareness. But we've set up a standardization for our plans across Kings County. The one unique thing I want to point out on our timeline here is that the overall responsibility, I may be called out to fires before in a farmland. As soon as it touches into the woods, that's Lands and Forestry. So we have a Lands and Forestry rep on our Emergency Management Planning Committee, but not just putting it through the Planning Committee. I sent the whole plan off to Lands and Forestry in February, and they actually, multiple staff within Lands and Forestry reviewed it and thought it was a well put together document. In March, it went through the Planning Committee. In April, the Advisory Committee. And of course, that March-April timeframe with COVID, typically it would have gone for approval in May and June, but we're here now trying to move the plan forward of getting it approved by municipal councils. It was the Committee of the Whole for Wolfville last week, or just over a week ago, and now here with your council this evening. Again, I want to really make sure that and the number of trainings and things we do, we can't go a day without speaking the word COVID. And I'm sure, show of hands, how many people are tired of emails from Dan Stoffel. But there's a number of issues that understanding COVID impacts, even the fires, the small ones we've had here, bringing fire trucks together, people together, and things we do fighting and responding to fires is a totally different nature. Cleaning the trucks, sanitizing, and doing things because of COVID. And understanding that it may be more difficult to fight respiratory infections such as COVID during the high haze environments. I have relatives right now in Vancouver. The air quality warnings and alerts and the pictures coming out from Vancouver are astonishing about what's taking place with the whole west coast ablaze. They've even mentioned that the smoke cloud has actually reached New York from the west coast. The best way, of course, is to reduce exposure and seek cleaner air spaces, and a lot of that looking at long-term shelters. And the Red Cross has put out an excellent guidance document understanding some of our larger spaces we have set up here as shelters. We can't just mass pack people in like the usual standard. Have to understand physical distancing and everything and the cleanliness that comes about when we set up an emergency shelter with the support of Red Cross. The one thing early on at the very start of this pandemic and part of my normal reaching out to all of our 22 comfort centers, I sent out a occupational health and safety guidelines for staffing, cleaning, physically distancing, and I reach out to them regularly because for those that aren't aware, our comfort centers are not necessarily all fire halls. In fact, a lot of them are smaller community halls that are staffed by those residents who are actually more impacted by COVID. And so to understand which centers to be able to staff up, what we've also done is create a surplus of personal protective equipment, PPE supplies, and that surplus is held at our Emergency Coordination Center in the event of having to distribute PPE across Kings County to our facilities. The supplies have already gone to fire departments, but we're maintaining a surplus stock as well for comfort centers. And I will stop sharing my slide because the motion, I guess, is coming up in agenda item 8A. But I will open it here, Your Worship, for any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. And I noticed you've got your own clock going, and 6 minutes. That was pretty amazing. So thank you for that.
And I even got to talk about hurricanes.
Exactly. Are there any questions for Dan with regards to the wildfire? Or I'm going to say, I don't know why my phone keeps ringing. With regards to wildfires or COVID. Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Richard. No, it's a good plan, Dan. Oh, that rhymes. Sorry. And certainly for those who feel we're not in a climate crisis, well, this is evidence of that. So not to quote Mr. Trump, but this is not about forest management. This is climate change. And it is sickening to watch. I've got friends in Vancouver as well and in Sacramento, California, and it's a terrible situation. So keep up the good work. And I support this, certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
Are there any further questions for Dan with regards to this? All right, Dan, that's it. We let you off easy tonight.
Well, my only question, Worship, usually I stay at all council meetings right till the motion comes up. But if there's going to be no questions about the motion, I would sign off. Not that I don't mind watching you all. I will throw out there our Atlantic bubble's doing very well. I press it to everybody I see, keep it up. The rising concern, I'm not sure if you saw today, but Ontario unprecedented in 14 weeks. They've just hit a high of 313 cases today, back up to 278 cases in Quebec. We're still waiting till 6:30 and 7 o'clock, the reports I get to see about, because they don't report on the weekends, BC and Alberta. I keep trying to talk to people, understanding in my small circle of friends, that this has not gone away. We're doing very well in the Atlantic bubble, but it's not gone away.
Thank you for everything you do for us, Dan. I have to say I do appreciate your daily emails. Well,
thank you. Others don't necessarily with the file they have of Dan for 900 emails, but thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye now. All right, we're moving on to our next agenda item, which is our department reports and recommendations. And CAO Smith, could you please introduce the process for our department reports and recommendations?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I thought today I would do something apparently a little different, but it's what I'm used to. When reports are presented on behalf of departments, I like to have the directors available for questions. The truth is I don't know the answer. But the bigger picture is that I want you to get to know these professionals and what they're doing for you. And I would encourage you to look through the reports. I'm sure you already have, but for August, I'm amazed at the level of activity that these reports cover. So we'll just go through them in turn. And Your worship, do you want me to kind of go through each heading, or do you want to do that yourself?
It's up to you. You've got the floor. Why don't you keep going?
Somehow I managed to mute myself. Maybe one of my maybe Jason, I don't know. But let's start off with finance. I will try to walk us through because finance has the director's report and 2 other items. So are there any questions on the director's report?
We do have a question from Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Director Kroll, on page 4 of your report under expenditures, where you mention at June 30th, the sanitary sewer area service reports a current deficit of 18,840. Is that our portion of the deficit that we need to eat, or are we splitting that amongst the partners?
This purely relates to the town of Kentville sanitary sewer area service. This does not include, this is not the regional sewer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is our own, well, it's not a utility. It's an area service, but it is our own. It's related to the users in Kentville.
Okay, perfect. So it will all be for our account. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell. You're on mute.
I just have one question, Deb. Under Town of Kentville Capital Fund, I noticed that our own source equipment capital is higher than budget, 84,353 to what the budget is 73. Is that the police vehicle, or what is that?
This is under transportation. So this is under the Public Works Department. They purchased 2 pickup trucks. The budget is supposed to have included the sale of 2 trucks, which has yet to occur. The Public Works Department kept some of these trucks because of the pandemic and the need to socially distance all the operators. So hopefully these trucks will be put up for sale, and we'll capture something from the sale of the trucks. Otherwise, we will have to offset it with transfer out of reserve, whatever the residual difference is.
Right. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Kroll, the Schedule H, how much the county owes the town, I see that's back up to 1.1 million. So my question is, the payments that they have been making, it doesn't appear that they're making those payments to pay down any deficit that there's a disagreement on. It seems that they're just keeping up with the status quo with what they owe locally. Is that a fair assessment?
The County of Kings is the issue related to sanitary sewer is the outstanding issue, which is the most costly issue. The water portions, for example, they are paying, and the recreation portions they are paying. So it's only purely related to the sanitary sewer issues that we haven't received payment for.
Okay, thank you.
CAO, did you want to comment on?
Just to add to that, we have been contacted by the county, and in the transition between the former CAO and your interim CAO, the county has offered to help us to retain a couple of experts that are going to help us resolve, we think, that issue, and that process is underway. So we'll have more information for you as soon as we know that we have those people retained. Yeah.
Okay, I still have 3 hands up. Do you have further questions or? Okay, Councillor Savage. Oh, all good. Okay.
My apologies, Your Worship. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, CAO, we're moving on.
We're moving on to Deborah. There's 2 reports that you have with recommendations on them. If you just outline those for council in turn.
Yes, thank you very much. I will, and good evening to everybody. I'm here to present 2 additional items to the finance report. One being the fall 2020 debenture funding, and this is a refinancing of the debenture for the Kentville Police Station. We have received the approval limit of $300,000, which is the amount outstanding on this building. We're looking at having a pre-approval resolution adopted by council this evening, which will be forwarded to Nova Scotia Municipal Finance Corporation so that we can extend our debenture related to this building for an additional 5 years, which will then pay the entire building off. The building will be paid off in 5 years. So we're looking for council to approve the resolution for pre-approval of debenture issuance for the refinancing of the Town of Kentville Police Station. And this is a $300,000 limit. We're looking, and we have a TBR that is attached for your easy reference. It's TBR 20/21-01 that has been approved not only by Town Council on March the 30th, 2000, but also by the Minister for Municipal Affairs by certificate on the 18th day of June 2020. So all our paperwork is in order. We just need this pre-approval in order to continue with our debenture related to this building.
I'll move that. I'll move, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council approve the pre-approval of debenture issuance to refinance the Town of Kentville Police Station in the amount of $300,000. After ratification, it be signed and forwarded to the Nova Scotia Municipal Finance Corporation. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is to approve the pre-approval of debenture issuance to refinance the Town of Kentville Police Station in the amount of $300,000. After ratification, it be signed and forwarded to the Nova Scotia Municipal Finance Corporation. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes, the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on.
Yes, thank you. The next item is the resolution for withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Operating Reserve. Sent a report up to Interim CAO Smith at the end of August, and it refers to the collective agreement that was ratified by council. This is a collective agreement with the Atlantic Police Association Local 107. It was ratified on June the 29th, 2020. Schedule A denotes the collective agreement rates of pay that are due the APA members over the life of the contract. And the local had been outside a contract since March 31st, 2019. And therefore, a settlement related to retroactive pay is due the APA members. This was paid out to the members in the middle of July of 2020. As council may recall, and through our budget process, we transfer an estimated sums for the settlement of collective agreements into our operating reserves each year to mitigate these types of settlements so that it does not affect our tax rates. The amount that that we paid to the APA members for the settlement of this collective agreement for up until the middle of July was $47,578. So I'm asking council to, I'm recommending to council that it approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Operating Reserve in the amount of $47,578 to offset retroactive pay settlement of the 2020 Atlantic Police Association collective agreement. This money will be transferred into the Town of Kentville Operating Fund, and it will sit in a revenue account as it's revenue coming in from an outside source, from our internal sources.
Yeah.
I'll move that.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Operating Reserve 2021 in the amount of $47,578 to offset retroactive pay associated with the settlement of the 2020 APA collective agreement. Is there any discussion? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Director Kroll, did you say that transferring that takes us up to the middle of July, or did you say
the retroactive pay would take effect from April 1, 2019 to the middle of July 2020.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is to approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Operating Reserve 2021 in the amount of $47,578 to offset retroactive pay associated with the settlement of the 2020 APA collective agreement. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes, the motion is carried. Moving on. You're on mute.
Too bad, you're missing some of my best lines, but I wanted to say that the directors, as they finish their report, if they feel like signing off, that was what my intention would be, unless council had any reason for something different. But I appreciate the time, and Deborah in particular is starting some vacation, so there's a pile of wood in the backyard that I want her to get working on early so that she doesn't strain those fingers that we need for the keyboard. Moving right along to the planning department, and I would like to cover any questions you have on both planning and economic development, and Bev is with us. Are there any questions?
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Director, gentlemen, the section there on projects with Parsons Green, just wondering, you talk there about the footings of the third building have been put in, and you allude to the developer realigning a property boundary to ensure compliance with setbacks. Does that have to do with the fourth building that's going in, or is there a plan for that? That's part one of my question.
Bev, you're on mute, sorry.
It shouldn't have anything to do with the fourth building. We haven't received any information on that yet. However, they had to move the building further to the east a little bit because of some topographic issue between the property and its proximity to the cemetery. So they've only had to move it a few feet, but it does change the property line. So they had to do a readjustment of the property line and a new location certificate, which we received today.
Okay, that also answers my question too. So great, thank you, Director.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Director, gentlemen, I'm worried about the Parsons Green development, and I'm worried about it for I guess administrative. In our MPS, what they're zoned is we allow 25 units per acre, correct?
I'd have to go back and look at that.
It's R4, I believe.
It's an R4.
So 25 units an acre, and there's 5.95 acres on that piece of land, which is 147 and a quarter, or actually I had 5.89 times 25, but
No, well, okay, so it works out based on the number of units. I don't know where you're getting into 25 units per acre.
what does our MPS say?
Our MPS or land use bylaw? The land use bylaw allows for multi-dwelling units. And then based on, okay, so for multifamily, yeah, it's kind of an odd calculation. Rear yard. So 5 or more dwelling units require, okay, the first four units require 6,000 square feet, and then each additional unit requires 7,000 square feet. So that when you do the math, the setback requirements that are outlined in the land use bylaw, it is permitted.
So it doesn't say that it's 25 units per acre.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
Is there anything further on that report? And there's also the report, I think CAO, you also called for the Community Economic Development Report at the same
Yes,
time.
if Bev can answer any questions you might have on that report.
Are there any questions on what we would call Lindsay's report? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Bev, I'm just wondering about the Mentoring Plus program and the virtual coffee and conversation event. Is that open to the public so that the public might be able to get involved in that Mentoring Plus program?
You know, I don't know exactly. I can certainly find that out for you and get back to you tomorrow regarding that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that if it is involved, you know, going out to the public, that we need some more publicity on that. So you don't have to get back to me if you could just check on it.
Yep. Yeah, well, certainly there will be public involved. Obviously, the mentors have to come from the public, but due to COVID, it's been difficult bringing them in.
Yeah,
But
I was
I'll
just
give you a
thinking,
further update to that.
right, with the virtual, I just thought maybe we should advertise that if it's open to the public.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Just two things. They're not actually questions. They're just sort of accolades. In terms of, I'm looking at the August 2020 permits issued. And when I look at it year over year, just thinking about COVID, and it's just, I think it's great to mention that we've had not as many issued as August 2019, but it's a pretty good showing considering it's a COVID year. And I also wanted to make mention of the Center Square Activation Project. I'm just over the moon with it. It's fantastic. And I've been to a few of the Thursday night events, and we're getting a good cross section of residents attending, and they're really, really enjoying it. So just kudos on both of those items.
I will extend that to Lindsay. Thank you.
All right, is there anything else on those, either of those? Councillor Maxwell?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, very good. Back to you, CAO.
Thank you. We'll move on to the planning director. And any questions on Parks and Recreation? Sorry, not the planning director, Parks and Recreation director.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions there. One is, do we have a timeline or when we think the gazebo might be looked at in on Oakdean, in Oakdean Park? And I'm wondering if the accessible KCA feature has been put up and installed yet at KCA. And I'm wondering about a status on the dog park. So those three questions.
So the gazebo at Oakdean Park, the footings are in, and we just called them again to get their timeline. And they have said before the snow flies. So we've kind of been here before, but that's what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, things are a little bit slow, and that leads me to KCA. KCA hasn't been done yet. The part has been ordered, but it's backlogged so much because of COVID, because things are taking so long to be delivered this year. So I can tell you it's a slim chance that that's going to be completed before the new year. We still don't have the part in.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can say that we did receive some funding from the province to support with that. So now we're just waiting for the pieces. So that's great. What was the third? Oh, the dog park.
Okay.
Sorry. We are just trying to do some investigation around getting in contact with the current user of that space and getting some final detailed quotes and things and getting things lined up to get that going. Unfortunately, I don't have more details for that one. Sorry, Councillor Maxwell.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Pulsifer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Rachel, I was just wondering about the exercise groups. They've been happening up at Oakdean Park by the stage there, and they've been very successful and lots of participants. What happens when the weather gets to the point where that can't be held up there? Is there any inside a facility that will work?
Well, we're certainly tight on space this year because the school isn't permitting community groups, but we do have a plan. And as I mentioned in my report, we're creating a plan for the recreation center. So eventually, those groups, especially the fitness classes with Susie, they are normally indoors this time of year, but Susie and the participants have decided that they prefer to be outside right now. They actually enjoy the cooler weather. So they're going to stay outside as long as possible, and that thankfully gives us a little bit more time just to try and figure out logistics with the recreation center. But that is one of those groups that we'll be doing our best to try and accommodate. As you can imagine, moving things indoors increases the level of complexity with cleaning and numbers and space and all those different things. So we're trying to keep things outdoors where it's safer, where you can host more people as long as possible. So fingers crossed, stays warm.
Is there any possibility of utilizing the soccer dome facility for anything?
So there's two things there. One, the soccer dome currently is not open, and they're not sure about their reopening plan at the moment. We've heard that potentially not until the new year, but I can't confirm that because that we're not involved in that facility. And then it would be a matter of availability and also budget.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks.
It's COVID. This is what I do all year. I've just been shaking my head.
Yes.
We're doing
adjusting. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, CAO, we're good to go.
Good. I'm having trouble with this mute button, but anyway, police chief is available if there's any questions on the police report.
Councillor Pulsifer, did you have a question?
Oh,
or
sorry. Forgot to lower
your
my hand.
handover's a holdover.
Yeah.
No problem. So looks like the chief is getting off easy. So Councillor Bolland.
I just want to say congratulations on your 30-year policing in the province. As you know, I said regrets on Friday, but keep up the good work.
Here's to another 30?
No.
Maybe
but
thank you.
Combine that with my 15 and 5 years with the RCMP auxiliary, maybe that's 20, but no, that's, anyway, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And that award goes further than Nova Scotia because it's actually from the Governor General, so it's in Canada. So it's pretty prestigious. All right, CAO, we're moving along.
We're moving along to the Director of Engineering and Public Works, and he has his report plus a recommendation. We'll start on his report. There's probably no questions about our capital program right now, but just in case, we wanted to have him here.
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Sure.
Please do.
Jason, I can put you on Facebook now if you like, or we can continue this meeting and I'll just upload the recording. Totally up to you.
What's your wish, Council? It seems to me better late than never, and then we can still put up the recording afterwards.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So
just one sec. I'm just ready.
I have to be very careful. Yeah, turn us on, please, Jason. I have to be very respectful how I say that. But we do need to get on Facebook.
Okay, I'm going live now. Cross your fingers.
Yeah. Sorry, Council, you will get used to my terrible sense of humor. Not always appropriate.
And you're live.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Facebook. We had some technical difficulties, so you are joining us in, I'm going to say, about the middle of our meeting. We're at department reports, and we're currently with Engineering and Public Works. Would like you to know that you can leave public comments, and you can send those via email directly to our recording secretary at jwest@kentville.ca, and anything received at that email during this meeting will be read during the public comments portion. So CAO, I'll hand it back over to you, please.
Okay, and I'll hand it over to Director Bell if there's any questions of him on his report.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Dave, I'm just wondering on Prospect Street, the sidewalk that's being repaired, where does it run from? The bottom of Prospect up to where, or where is that sidewalk going?
Yes, Councillor Maxwell, it starts at the end of the, sort of behind the Alliant building where the concrete sidewalk ends now and the poor condition asphalt sidewalk starts. This phase will go up to the Church Avenue intersection, that block. So from Alliant to Church Avenue, that section that's in really, really poor condition.
Right, thank you. And I'm also wondering about Blair Avenue. Do you have any idea when Blair Avenue leading to the hospice would be?
Yes, so that's part of the capital works projects that were awarded to Howard Little. They started removals Friday on the asphalt on Gladys Porter Drive, and they're getting that graded up now. They'll then move over to Blair to remove existing. I suspect even this week, because they expect to pave both streets on the same day. So they'll pave Gladys Porter and Blair on the same day. So they're prepping Gladys now and Blair very soon with days, we certainly hope. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also wondering on the sidewalks on Main Street and Park Street. On Park Street, is that at the end going to Bonavista? Is that where that sidewalk is going, or?
Oh yes, the one they've got the last of the curb.
Yes.
It was a 2-year sort of 2-phase project Mid Valley Construction has been doing. So that they're set to form, or they've already formed the curb along that area where they've obviously done all the filling in on their own property, which certainly helped have a place for us to put our sidewalk. Curbs, I thought would have been poured late last week, but I think that it was a traffic control issue and just a lack of available traffic control folks. They're busy all over the province, so Mid Valley has delayed that, but plan to pour this week the curb, and then they'll in turn form the sidewalk behind. So you'll see that sidewalk complete in the next 2 weeks for sure, right to Bonavista. So that completes sort of that West End project all the way to the entrance of Anderson.
Okay, great. And one more question, it's just my own curiosity. I'm wondering what the small blue pipe is that is running along Park Street.
Okay, so that's temporary water, above ground water to facilitate the work on Condon. So Condon Avenue, the water main, the sewer main, so much of that street that doesn't even go to the top. So that's part of our capital project. They had to hook on to the nearest hydrant, and they ran it up behind the sidewalk on Park Street and around the apartment building, and then into Condon. So it's a week-long process to install that pipe and flush and disinfect, and then get 2 consecutive hospital tests back, and then they hook up everyone usually through their outside tap. So you're basically, they're off of. They're still on town water, but they're off of the below ground water main during the period of construction, so they can tear the old one out and limit the disruption to basically nil for the homeowners. They still have town water and a safe, reliable supply. May not be quite as cold maybe as they're used to where it's on top of the ground, but that was done also up on Prospect this summer, and that was July, so I know that water couldn't have been too, but it's better now with our temperatures, and so I've talked to lots of folks up there to let them know that it's what it is. Same sort of question you had, Councillor Maxwell. Is it safe? Is it still town water? And of course it is. It looks like it's coming out of a hydrant, but that's again it's safe and disinfected water. Great. For sure.
Thank you very
much. You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make a comment that it's nice to see the curbing and potential sidewalk happening there to Bonavista, and you answered my questions. So when it was happening and when
it's getting close,
you'd be finished. I did have one other question for you. On Prospect Street, between Church Avenue and Academy.
Yes.
Is anything being done to
patch paving?
Yeah, patch paving.
Yes. We wanted to wait until the upper piece that was just paved on Friday. We'll call it the section, from Academy to Overlook. that was disrupted. As you know, I know you live up the top, Councillor
Yeah,
Pulsifer.
I have a
there,
tendency now to
had to
turn
drive
down the
around,
road when I come
had to
down.
drive around the detour for months, and
Yeah.
the detour is down. We wanted to wait till all the heavy equipment was done above the section you're speaking of, the lower section. So we have Dexter. I've added that to their I guess it's about their third round of patching, which they told me they were going to be doing on Saturday, this Saturday past, but something always comes up. But something came up, and now they're scheduled for midweek this week to do another round of patching. And certainly, I'm not sure that they'll get the lower portion of Prospect this week, but that's certainly on their list before, we're down to September and parts of October for paving, and then it's
Well, a lot of residents up this way will be happy to hear that.
right. It will go the same sort of time, obviously,
Yeah.
as the sidewalk too, on that Councillor Maxwell asked about from the bottom up to Church, but even beyond, up, like you mentioned, up to Academy is
Yes.
needing some patching.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Bell, I know we had a couple of conversations about this, and I think the last time, I think even the mayor had mentioned the new lights coming in on the bridge construction, the traffic lights.
Yes. Yep.
You and I had talked about they're going with the 1980s technology about the sensors in the ground. Is that still a go, what they're going to do, or?
It is what they're going to do. I tried to see if they would, take that credit towards us doing something, somewhat more. Of course, nothing was budgeted, this year for us to do that. There really is no big savings. So I think what my thoughts are now, Deputy Mayor, is let them go ahead and put the loop detectors in. I've spoken to Black & McDonald's, and having them in is also a good backup to the newer system, which are the sensors. They have to move two lights. They're moving the two on the south side of the Belcher Cornwallis intersection. They're moving to the east 15 feet or so, or maybe a little more. So actually, there's one light down right now, and there have temporary ones. That's actually something I wanted to add, but just got the update from Dexter since we started this meeting, that they have temporary lights available to set up tonight and tomorrow, because for a period of the next 2 weeks or so, the main lights are going to be out of commission, because they have to take the old ones down, at least on that south side, and those ones control the ones on the north side. And so it was going to be a nightmare, we thought. So we certainly recommended they have temporary ones brought in, the same kind you'd have on, say, on the 101 when they're doing bridge work. They're portable temporary traffic lights, but so they'll be up here, they tell me, tomorrow. And but as far as your original question with the sensors, I would see budgeting for that and having those added ourselves. They're about $10,000 per side, so we're looking at the $40,000 40 to 50 range to have them installed, but no real savings to do them now. So they're going to go ahead and put the loops in, and we'll plan for that hopefully in the next fiscal year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on.
We have the asset management item, Dave.
Sure. I guess I'll read through it quickly. I don't know if that got in everyone's package or not. It was really a late thing that really just came available to us late last week after I submitted my report. But we're doing Mayor Snow and Kirsten Harrison and myself are on the asset management committee. We attended our first meeting back in late August, and it'll be there'll be, I think, 5 more about once a month until the end of the year. But at that meeting, they brought up that there's some potential funding for our next phases. We're doing water under this current phase. So this funding opportunity that we have is for the other assets, and we have, of course, so many storm and sanitary and our roads and our facilities and parks and trails and and all those things need to be to be included in our asset management plan. So I guess I will read through it quickly. The town of Kentville has started the first phase of our asset management program with Atlantic Infrastructure Management Network, or AIM, by focusing first on our water utilities assets. Requirements are coming that have all municipal assets, are coming to have all municipal assets inventoried in a standardized format. This tells us what we own, where it is, what condition it is in, and what it is worth. This becomes very useful in preparing a 5-year capital plan in order to make informed recommendations to council on upgrades and replacements. In order to qualify for future infrastructure funding, federal and/or provincial, an asset management plan will be mandatory. The AIM network will help municipalities prepare an FCM funding application, but first require a signed resolution that council supports this work and agrees to pay its 10% share of the total cost. Gas tax funding may be used actually for this portion. We may choose not to. When 3 or more municipalities apply for funding from FCM together for this asset management funding, together the eligibility funding increases from 80 to 90%. The 2 other towns applying for funding with us are Middleton and Oxford. Funding is for 90% of the total project cost, up to a maximum of $50,000 funding portion. Our application is for $49,050 as a grant from FCM, leaving the town's 10% share at $5,450. The recommendation is that based on the above information and attached FCM funding process, council sign a resolution in support of this work and agree to pay the town's 10% share, $5,450, of the total cost.
All right, so moved, thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that council approve a resolution to support the asset management inventory funding from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, and further that council approve the allocation of $5,450 to support the town of Kentville share of the asset management funding, and further that council approve the addition of $5,450 to the 2021, I did say operational budget, but if we're going to use gas tax money, would that not be capital budget, Director Kroll?
Muted.
Muted.
I keep pressing the mute thing and that's not where you press. This would be a capital item for the 2021-22 capital acquisition plan.
So 21-22, not this year's capital?
This, from what I understand, talking with Director Bell, we're talking about 21-22 capital acquisition plan.
21-22 capital.
So if any funds are received in this fiscal year, they will be placed in reserve to offset the plan cost next year.
Okay, thank you. So is there any discussion? Councillor Maxwell, Deputy Mayor, your hands, I don't know if those are holdovers or new.
Sorry, no.
Okay, that's good. No questions or no discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is to approve a resolution to support the asset management inventory funding from the FCM, and further that council approve the allocation of $5,450 to support the town of Kentville share of the asset management funding, and further that council approve, or are we pre-approving, the addition of $5,450 to the 21-22 capital acquisition budget. So my wording there, should it be pre-approve?
I think so.
Because it's for next year. We're not approving it for this budget. It's for the next budget. So
We have to have the resolution to apply now, but yeah, we're not. We're making the
so
application for funding.
I will use the term pre-approved. So if I could reread that to council. So the question is to approve a resolution to support the asset management inventory funding from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM. And further, that council pre-approve the allocation of $5,450 to support the town of Kentville share of the asset management funding. And further, that council pre-approve the addition of $5,450 to the 21-22 capital acquisition budget.
So moved.
That's been done.
Okay. Did you amend the motion though?
Okay, so that is an amendment, sorry.
Sorry.
So Councillor Savage, you're going to give us the motion again?
Yes.
And the seconder?
Second.
Councillor Pulsford, thank you. Thank you both for that. So is there any discussion? There's no discussion. The question is to approve a resolution to support the asset management inventory funding from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM. And further, that council pre-approve the allocation of $5,450 to support the town of Kentville share of the asset management funding. And further, that council pre-approve the addition of $5,450 to the 21-22 capital acquisition budget. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you? And I say yes, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Back to you, CAO.
Thank you. We're nearly done. We're down to me. If there's any questions on my report and also the communications report, and I hope you all receive the one-page returning officer's report to talk about his progress. If not, we'll make sure you get it. But are there any questions on any of those three?
Looks like they're going to let you off easy.
That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you, Council, and thanks to the storm team. When I first walked in the door, I didn't know what the storm was. I thought it was a Dan Stovall thing, but it wasn't. And the returning officer and deputy are doing excellent work, as is reflected in the candidates and the mayor that are selected at this point. So I think that would conclude mine. I can roll ahead into the next item, but I'll leave it to you, Your Worship, to introduce it.
Thank you very much. So if we could have a motion to accept the staff reports as presented.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that staff reports be accepted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. And as we move on to our first item of unfinished business, or our only item of unfinished business, we have a report on the public art, and CAO, you have a verbal report for council. If you could go ahead with that, please.
I will. Your Worship, I had advised council informally afterwards, but this is one of those times when I have to echo it formally in the public meeting. There was a tremendous idea to have a piece of public art put on the side of our recreation center. And it was a great idea to recognize a local boxer who has done incredibly well. But we ran into a snag, if you will, when we found out what was necessary to prep the side of our building. Unlike some of those home shows that you watch where they're always filling in the side of their building and painting them, in our case, it was well over $20,000 to do that prep piece, let alone the painting part. So I talked to Director Bedingfield today, and we're still in touch with the artist who might be able to help us in time. But we have to A, look at it in next year, and B, see whether there's another place or another opportunity to put something like that in. So at this point, we will not be proceeding with that particular activity unless council feels strongly otherwise and can help us find the funds to do so.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for the CAO on that matter? All right, moving on. I was negligent, CAO, that I didn't thank staff for being here for part of their reports. If you could pass that on tomorrow at
I will.
your staff meeting, that we appreciate them being here and their reports as always. So we'll move on to our correspondence. And you've all received the correspondence for review. The first one was Kings County School funding. We had two great newsletters for the town of Kentville. The first with Center Square activation, and the second one, Kentville Gateway Project, where we received funding from Municipal Affairs. Both of those grants were requested, and we received them. So that's excellent work from our staff again. And as well, we have a thank you letter from the Kentville Historical Society with regards to the grant that they received this year from the council. So that was very nice of them. The next one is a presentation of our physician community navigator. As you'll recall, the county was, or the area was putting in place a physician community navigator for our local resident, our family physician residents that are here for a 2-year period, and we're pleased to present Brianna Hall to the area as our physician navigator. The next piece of correspondence was received late on Friday, and you probably just got it today. So I'm actually going to hand this over to the CAO because he has a few things to say with regards to it. So CAO, if you could proceed with that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, I think staff would like to look at this letter and develop a reply for it, and perhaps come back to council. The suggestion here is not a small one. It's suggesting that we flip a piece of the town to the county, and that's a boundary issue and requires action with the utility review board and all kinds of things. In the short term, the road has a problem. There are residents. It is across the 101, this piece of Harrington Road. But we have been trying to make contact, and unfortunately over the summer with vacations and that sort of thing, we did run into a delay, but we have been in touch with DTIR, with the province, and they recognize it is their road. They recognize it needs to be properly maintained, and we're just in contact with them in the last couple of days. So I'm hoping we'll have some action for Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, but I would like you just to refer to staff, and we will try to get a reply and perhaps speak to you as well about what we've done.
Thank you. So you, CAO, you plan to take that for action? You do not require a motion from council on that matter?
I don't require a motion. No, I know it has to be responded to. Council's been aware, and at this point, the public's aware of it also.
Thank you very much on that
an
one.
issue.
All right, moving on to our new business. Our only new business is the recommendation from Kings Remo with regards to the wildfire preparedness and response plan. So we have a recommendation that council approve the attached Remo wildfire preparation plan dated March 2020 from Kings Remo. If I could have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Savage, I've got you moving that motion, and Councillor Bolland, I have you for the second. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the Kings Remo wildfire preparedness plan dated March 2020. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is to approve the Kings Remo wildfire preparedness plan dated March 2020. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Bolland, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsifer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you? And I say yes, the motion is carried. Do we have any public comments? There being no public comments, the council.
There are no comments.
Thank you. The council has confidential legal business which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda item. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for adjournment. Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconder? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into the closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. The time is now 5:50 and we'll go off of Facebook Live.